So today we are recapping the 2003 World Team Team Final. It's the World Team Final.
You're turning into
Team.
Wikipedia, where they call things team all-around finals, and I'm like, this is
No.
not the terminology. I'm confused. I'm not happy about this.
2003 World Championships Women's Team Final in Anaheim, featuring the dawn of 3-up 3-count, the red dawn of no warm-ups and finals, Khorkina being Khorkina.
Exclamation point, end of sentence. Yeah.
Elfie Schlegel being so rude that even the other commentator, who should now not be named, was horrified by what she said. Carly Patterson, Oana Bon, Lee Ya warming up on the podium, Hollie Weiss getting no deduction for not having a number and taking forever, more evidence of racism in gymnastics, 100 injuries for the U.S. team, and the most famous gymnastics quote of all time, "Oh, that's too bad." And lots of stories, because I was there in person for every single session of the championships and beyond, like at the bar. So I have lots of stories from it. This is July 1st for the year of 2020 of our Lord Olympics, who is not here because of pandemic reasons. So we are bringing you this amazing, wonderful, fantastic recap of when there was gymnastics in the world. Welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. And this episode is brought to you by Club Gym Nerd member Sarah.
Sarah has dedicated this episode to the cats of the Gymternet. Tucker, Juliet, Theo, Lucci, Lola, Apollo, Eclipse, Tux, Ash, Flitwick, Ellie, Tuvi, Jules, Cornell, and anyone else I'm missing. It's a very complete list if you're missing someone. Sarah says, we love you and you make the world go round. To the cats of the Gymternet. That was very important.
Flitwick doesn't know this, but he's Obi's boyfriend. Just FYI. Now everyone knows. So we have breaking news this week that just happened yesterday. So let me start with this. Okay. My understanding is that if you break a rule of gymnastics, there's a 10-year statute of limitations. So an update to this got confusing. So this whole conversation we're having is hypothetical because the rules, the statute of limitation changed. So from after 2015, the statute of limitations became 10 years. But between 2009 and 2015, the statute was 8 years. So basically, if Shawn had done this at a different time, the statute would have been still in effect, but it is not in effect now, so nothing is going to change because the statute of limitations has already run out. So what we're discussing is hypothetical, but I think is still interesting because this raises a lot of questions, and we'll get into that. So, and this might be why, like, Daniela Silovash has never had her Romanian medals taken away for being underage, because that didn't come out, or she didn't talk about it because there's a 10-year statute of limitations. And that might be why only people of color have ever been punished for these things and not any white people.
Now, so that's why the Chinese 2000 team medal was stripped and then re-awarded to the bronze was re-awarded to the US in 2010 after that was in 2000.
Because it was under 10 years when we found out. Yeah. Okay, so knowing that, so the year is 2020.
That is the current year.
That is the current year. So Shawn Johnson, as you know, has a YouTube channel which talks about a lot of stuff, and she just made a video about body image, and she was very revealing. It's very powerful. She talked about her struggles and, you know, in stages of her career and all the things she went through. And I highly recommend that people watch it. It's very powerful, and she's very frank. I mean, I feel like we've had pieces of what she talks about, but she's very explicit in what went on and eating disorders and using substances to get through, and just like really treating her body terribly, and like the moment that she actually finally quit. So she also in this video says that the US team doctor, and then she's like, I'm not going to get into it, like inferring it's Nasser, because we know that's who the gymnastics doctor was at the time. He prescribed her Adderall specifically to lose weight and help her have energy. Now, Adderall is considered a performance-enhancing drug. So you are not allowed to take Adderall unless you have ADHD or ADH.
Which you
So
have to get a therapeutic use exemption for.
you cannot use it for energy and to lose weight. So she effectively has admitted that, and she said in 2011, US doctor prescribed me Adderall. She says she took it through 2011 up until 2012, and she said she was overdosing on Adderall and any medication that wouldn't be caught by USADA, which is the drug testing agency. So this is really interesting because the year is 2020, 2011. This is within the 10-year statute of limitations. So this should mean that the last time that Shawn competed, her results are nullified. And the most important competition that she was in during that time was the 2011 Pan Am's in Mexico, I think. So Shawn won team gold, and she won silver on bars. So first of all, I would like to say I love that Shawn was honest about this. I love that she talked about it, and this is no way a criticism of Shawn's journey and what she went through and her being honest about this. But the timing means that if the FIG takes this seriously for once, the entire U.S. team would lose their gold medal, which means Bridget Sloan, Brandy J, Bridget Coquato, Jessie DeZiel, Grace McLaughlin, and then Canada plays second. So Canada moves to the gold medal place, Mexico is silver, and Colombia moves into third as a team, which is a huge deal. This would also mean that Shawn took silver. That means that there's a second place tie. No, there's a third place tie for Cantu and Elsa Garcia of Mexico. So if there's ties allowed, then they are both silver, and then Peng gets third.
No, Peng would be fourth.
Damn it. So,
but this is all to clarify. This is you saying what potentially would maybe happen if, like, this hasn't happened. No one's nullified anything.
No one is nullified. There's been lots of news. I mean, this was in a lot of, like, you know, all the gossip magazines have this out here, but no one is.
Then I mean, if it's in the gossip magazines, just hand over the medals right now.
I mean, I, for one, am glad gymnasts can make the news, 10 years after 9 years after their careers are over. So my question for you is, two questions. First of all, does the FIG care if the doctor is the one who was at fault? And if that doctor is now a convicted criminal who's never getting out of jail?
I think the FIG is not supposed to care. I think they probably will. I think that's probably relevant. But I feel like, I mean, when you look at other examples, like, I mean, Andrea Raducan was the one who was punished. It's not like that's a kind of, like, she still doesn't have her gold medal for something dumb that she was given by a doctor. So, I mean, that in precedent, that hasn't really mattered. But, my guess would be nothing's going to happen about this.
Does it matter that, I think it shouldn't matter who, after the fact, the doctor was wrong, we know all these things now, but this is different than it's not different because it was a coercion and a way to, like, get on someone's good side, I think. And it was also, like, totally and completely unacceptable. Although we know that there are 2 college coaching programs who were also accused of doing this, and those coaches at the 2 different colleges lost their jobs. So we know that this is something that apparently doctors presumably do.
It is very, very common in all sports for athletes to get fake prescriptions for Adderall that they don't actually need, in the belief that it will enhance their performance, which particularly sucks for people who actually need it. and have a legitimate reason and a legitimate therapeutic use exemption, because it makes it seem like they're cheating too, even if they're just legit.
It just puts them on a level playing field with other people. Will the FIG for once punish white people? And I say white people as this is Shawn's fault. Well, it's not a white team, but
and we don't want to say it's Shawn, Shawn's fault. I don't want to say it's Shawn's fault, because like this is not the first time we've heard about like being given random, like didn't Vanessa Adler in her interview with you talk about just like, I didn't know what they were giving me. Yeah, who wants a shot? Yeah. So this is,
And I think Shawn was in 2011, she would have been an adult by then, but still, I don't know.
I still think there is, yeah. Anyway,
it's always your fault. If you're the athlete, it's always your fault, and it doesn't matter how old you are. But do you think Shawn had any idea that's admitting this in 2011? Because she says, I was trying to take any medication that wouldn't be caught by USADA. I mean, so she knows that, but do you think she have any idea that she's just potentially stripped her team of a medal?
No, I don't think she thought that through.
Will the FIG punish the US?
My guess is no.
Really?
My guess is nothing's going to happen with this. Yeah. Is your guess different? There would have to be outside pressure. There would have to be like a contingent of people making sure the FIG doesn't forget this. Like that's what had to happen with the most recent North Korea age falsification, which they weren't even trying. It was like, come on, North Korea, this is too obvious. But outside people had to like push the FIG to pay attention to that, right? They had to report it. They had to, and so I think that's what would have to happen. Like the FIG would have to get pushed, and I don't think anyone's going to be willing to do that, because I don't think many people view this as Shawn's fault or that she should be punished for something. Even if she did do this, knowing what we do about the culture, like, you overall take a sympathetic view towards Shawn's role, so no one's going to be pushing like, you need to strip that evil Shawn Johnson of her medal. I don't think anyone's going to take that perspective. Yeah. But I might be wrong. We don't know what's going to happen. I have proven that I could be wrong about predicting things. Please go back and listen to previous episodes about the coronavirus.
I really feel for Mexico and Canada and Colombia, who potentially, for those countries especially, a Pan Am medal is huge, and it can be life-changing, and it can be financially life-changing, and it's a really big deal. And so for them, I think it's only right to take the medals away. And I think that those countries should honor whatever payments, et cetera, would have happened. It's also really sucks because you can't get, maybe they won't go back and pay them, and they don't have like the fame that they would have had, and then have the opportunities to, make money that they could have. But what should USA Gymnastics do? Being made aware, hey, one of your athletes cheated. What's your responsibility as USA Gymnastics?
What is your responsibility as USA Gymnastics? I don't know. Do you have an answer to that question?
Yeah, if you have a real code of ethics and you catch, that one of your athletes cheated, even if it was under like a horrible person who's, that person was an adult, the athlete. Athletes have been removed from teams currently for USA Gymnastics not putting them into the drug pool in a timely fashion, or not realizing they were out of the drug pool. So if it can happen in reverse, then USA Gymnastics should be responsible proactively. If you cheated, you should say something.
But do what? Because one of the other issues here, which you didn't bring up before, is that Shawn did not ever test positive, right, for a banned substance. We don't know that.
She might have. We don't know.
I feel like doesn't that have to be reported if it happens? Like, wouldn't she have to be? Well, it's USAG. Never mind. Wow, how silly of me. I think that. What are they going to do? Strip like a medal from nationals that you don't even know if she was taking it at the time? It seems like very ambiguous.
No, USAG reported to the FIG, but also at nationals. Yeah, you should change the.
I think that's tough.
I don't. I think it's clear. You either do the right thing or you don't. It also really sucks because, like, the rest of the team didn't do anything wrong. And now they all lose their medal because of one person. And that totally sucks. Maybe we could just remove her score. And if they still win without her. That's the thing that really yeah. And I worry now if now we know that Nasser was prescribing drugs for fake.
Right. You think Shawn was the only one if he was doing this to Shawn?
Right. So is this going to make USADA come down really hard on everybody, and re-look at those records and see, like, like Simone, I don't think it's going to be a big deal because she's been taking this since she was a little kid. So I don't think there's going to be, no one's taking performance-enhancing drugs at 9. I hope. Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, it's the issue of paperwork. If you have the therapeutic use exemption, then it's fine.
Right. And and I guess now maybe they'll go back and review, but like, where are those records again? They were at the ranch, then they disappeared, then they found them, and then that wasn't them. And so still we have those records missing. So
do you think this is also part of why the records have mysteriously disappeared? Because there's evidence of use of performance enhancing or banned substances. And that's why it was like, hide those records.
Hide the records.
Like, why would you put that in writing if you knew it was wrong? I have a lot of questions.
I mean, well, this is one of the other things. Remember Crystal, what was her name? She does mini tramp and tumbling, and she had that Dr. George Drew, I believe it was, who was prescribing all these medications, and she had all the records of it. And then I don't think he's even banned, but he was the director of like TNT in some area, and he's
on some list, or was recently.
Because he was also a doctor that it seemed was prescribing according to her allegations. So does this open a huge box of worms, which is like, are we going to see tons of medals?
A box of worms?
It's a box of worms. They're right. It's a shoebox full of worms. A shoebox full of worms that was kept in the Crowley Ranch under the cold tub.
That would be the best animal situation you found there. A shoebox full of worms. That would be like the dream compared to those snakes or murder spiders or whatever they had there.
Camel poop, shrooms. So... Okay, so you guys, let us know what you think. I'm going to be really interested to see what happens because this is sort of an unprecedented situation where I think, it has potentially a lot of consequences for the lawsuits, for medals, for other people. Anywho, I mean, is Shawn going to have to pay back the money that if anything, that she earned from that time? I don't know. Okay, should we get into the commission? That's the breaking news. Let's get into 2003.
Let's get into the commission.
Let's go back in time. We didn't know of anyone using performance-enhancing drugs.
But it was just 2003. So this episode has been commissioned by Jasmine, who said, I would like you to do the 2003 World's Team Final. I watched this as a kid, but I think only now can we appreciate how insane this Worlds really was. Very true story. I'd also like to add, this is where I fell in love with Chelsea Memmel's Gymnastics, which isn't really important for this, but yes, I just wanted to add Chelsea for 2021. This is a birthday present for myself. Thank you for being a bright spot for me during all this going on.
Same. This is when I was like, Chelsea Memmel's amazing, and I have a lot to say about that during this. And happy birthday to you! And what a great gift to give yourself. So thank you for letting
always give yourself birthday presents. It's very important. I highly encourage everyone to do it.
Yes, I just bought myself roller skates. So. So Club Gym Nerd, my birthday is nowhere near here, but I did. Club Gym Nerd members like Jasmine help us pay the bills and deliver our weekly podcasts and live shows when those come back someday, and meet coverage and lots more. So if you'd like to become a German,
if you'd like to become a German,
a Club Gym Nerd member and get all of the perks like video. You can watch us recording this episode and see us react. And also you get an extra podcast every single week. You can see Spencer's eyebrows and what everyone proposes to him after they watch videos. You can go to gymcastic.com and under the Join Us tab, you can join for as little as $2 a month or $20 a year. There are membership tiers all the way up to Intergalactic Champion like Jasmine, where you can commission a full episode. So let's talk about the fire that started this entire 2003 U.S. team.
The iconic 2003 World Championship. So This was the first time the U.S. women ever won a world team title, which is a big deal. This was the U.S. team, like maybe around nationals time, you would have thought like, oh, they have a good shot. And then they named the team and they arrived in Anaheim and the problem things started to take place. Ashley Postel has the flu and she is removed from the team. Serious enough that she was removed from the team, topical, and she was replaced by Chelsea Memel. Then Anya Hatch injures her knee, and she is replaced by Taryn Humphrey, who was the second alternate. But the part of the drama there is it's one of those things where Taryn was originally the first alternate, but then Chelsea did so well at Pan Am's because she had just had that assignment right before Worlds that then suddenly they were like, oh, we want Chelsea on the Worlds team. So she came in, and then Taryn Humphrey got passed over, but then Anya Hatch injured her knee, so then Taryn was put on the team. And then after qualification, Courtney Coupette's national champion at the time, tore her Achilles. And since that was after qualification, that left the team with only 5 members for the team final. And the story about Coupette's is, so what are you going to say? Do you need to interject?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, there were so many injuries at this whole thing, but this is always the example of why you have to have 3 alternates that you can really use for everything, because they used every single alternate. Every alternate was used.
They didn't use Sam Sheehan, I believe, was the third alternate, because they couldn't replace Coupette's.
Oh, right, but they would have if it had happened earlier.
Right, yes. Because she competed in qualification. She did the all-around in qualification. But the deal was, so she did that in qualification. Then on Sunday in training, she tweaks her ankle. She has an MRI on Monday. She's cleared to resume training starting Tuesday, and she tore her Achilles at that Tuesday training center. This is via the LA Times at the time. So that is very interesting. I have some questions about the MRI and who cleared her to train.
And maybe quality of the team doctor?
Yes.
We just talked about?
The team doctor is specifically not named in any of this, but it would make it easy if it were him, because then that would just be a well-rounded narrative. We don't actually know, but some questions about the correctness and thoroughness of the medical care, maybe.
And she went home immediately. That was it. She didn't stay to watch the meet because it was, they're barely a year away from the Olympics. So basically, Kelly Hill and Coupette straight home. She was already having her surgery before this meet was over. I think it was 3 days after she had her surgery.
But what's interesting, so Kelly Hill was still on the floor for the team final because she was, I believe, the team head coach.
Oh, that's right, because she got the medal with them. This is the first year that they stood up there, right? Didn't she get up and get the medal? I don't remember that,
but maybe.
I think so. Well, anyway, Coupette's she was out of here. But Coupette's and Anya Hatch both made it back to make the 2004 Olympic team. So it just shows it can be done.
If Worlds is early enough. The other contextualizing note that we need to reference before starting to talk about the competition is that it was an epic stink pot. This was a really, really rough meet for nearly every country. Everyone fell on everything. And on a related note, there was no one-touch warm-up in the team final in 2003 on any event. So you marched out, you went to your first event, and you started, and then you waited for another team to go, and then you marched to your second event, and you chalked the bars and started. And that caused, I think it's very convincing to draw a line between how many falls there were, and there was no one-touch warm-up, and it caused some other issues that we'll talk about as well.
Yeah, one thing was that the warm-up gym. So this is not the practice gym, but the warm-up gym. So you just warm up in the back, come in. It was in a parking lot. It was in the parking lot of the arena in a tent. So they were warming up with asphalt beneath the equipment outdoors. But it wasn't super safe. But it wasn't like it was. When was this? October, September? Was it summerish? I don't remember. I don't remember being.
It was August. It was the end of August, I believe.
I don't remember being crazy hot or anything. But one thing of note, The parking was more expensive than the session tickets. Just FYI.
Nothing about that information surprises me.
I was horrified by that. 3 Cuban gymnasts defected by the end of this competition. Shannon Miller and John Roethlisberger were doing in-house radio commentary. You can call in and
You could call in.
I loved it. I called in many times to be like.
They were like, "Oh my god." John's like, "That was her."
I know.
No wonder.
I think I called in to say that the West Side Story choreography that Joanna, who was it? France, West Side Story choreography at these Worlds. She also had a deaf on bars.
Many of them had deafs on bars.
Anyhow.
Yeah. If it wasn't in the team final that I just watched, I probably
no, it wasn't. But she had legit. It was like the legit choreography from West Side Story. So I loved their commentary. They were a great commentary team. Don't see them together anymore. This was another theme of this was like some people had changed their appearance at this. I had never seen them in person, so like Shannon had changed her appearance by this point, and Nadia had changed a thing, and so I didn't recognize Shannon Miller at all. Like my friend was like, "That's Shannon Miller," and I was like, "No, it's not. That's Shannon Miller." I don't know who you're talking about. That's definitely not her. But anywho, so what else? Oh yeah, so between the arena and the warm-up tent in the parking lot, there was just an open air place with riot bars on either side and fence, that's called. And
we call them riot bars around here. In this family, we call them riot bars.
So there would be like little kids lined up and like yelling and wanting autographs, like while the athletes walk from the one to the other. And Khorkina was always like, "Oh, get away from me!" as she walked through, which I found hilarious and amazing.
What a star!
Khorkina is a huge star, and we're just lucky to have her land on our planet, really. And I don't think anyone understood, what a big deal she was. This is her. Yeah. We decided 9th Worlds in a row.
That was her 9th Worlds in a row. Yeah.
9th Worlds in a row. She's a huge deal, and people were lucky to, be in her space.
Can you imagine Khorkina walking by you in person and you are screaming instead of silently memorizing every single moment of what happened? No. It's truly offensive.
She found it as offensive as...
No. Of course she will.
I did. Yeah, I was like, no children. She's not.
She's not that kind coming of over and smiling at you and signing an autograph. Like, can you imagine?
No.
Like she's a farmhand.
It's not a red carpet, and that's what she deserves. So, goodbye.
Yeah, really.
All right. Shall we talk about the actual competition?
Yes. Let's get to the competition, and let's start by talking about the legend of Chelsea Memel. The of this team final. So Chelsea at this point, it's 2003. She's 15. She turned 15 in 2003. This is her first year as a senior because it was the year before the Olympics. So remember back then, you were able to compete at 15 as a senior elite. Like Shawn Johnson competed at 2007 Worlds when she was 15. And Chelsea was, this was really like an emergence because she was never like the top junior. Like, I don't think of Chelsea as ever being, like, the one. Like, in that age group, it was, like, Crystal Uzelak, and then it was Carly and Nastia. And Chelsea had a very reminiscent Allie Raceman trajectory, I think, in that Allie was never really the top junior, and then that year before she became senior, she was 3rd at junior nationals, and that was, like, mini ASAC, look at her year. And then the next year, she was, like, I'm going to win some Olympic medals. And Chelsea had a similar route. Like she then placed 3rd in the junior nationals the year before she was able to compete as a senior. And then suddenly she had this emergence competition. And that was really, it was Worlds, but it was Pan Am's right before that, where she won the all around the same month as Worlds and beat Nastia in that competition. Because she hadn't had a great national. She'd only placed 10th that year. But she really once it became time to selection and competition, she stepped it up. She was added onto the Worlds team. She got the highest U.S. score in qualification that year. So she outscored Carly in the all-around in qualification, and she outscored Kupets in the all-around in qualification. And so then she did all 4 events in team final. She was the only one on the U.S. team to do that. got the highest U.S. score on bars and beam, and it was like the Chelsea Memo moment was born at 2003 Worlds. Because without her ability to come in, the U.S., I mean, even though this meet was an epic stink pot, like they still needed some people to hit and get high scores. And, you know, if she hadn't been able to come in and be the Chelsea Memo that we had come to know, you know, Romania was going to be able to win the gold medal, even though they didn't even get a 9 on bars. Or barely.
She was absolutely, I remember, the star of this meet in general, like for the US. And it wasn't just because she made me realize for the first time, I was like, oh, the US is really good. Like everybody's good. Like it's not just there's a star here or there, like the depth is super legit. And the other reason that she was a star is I feel like the fans loved her so much because she stood out from the rest in a way that no one else did, except for maybe Tasha, because Tasha was always like a woman among children. But she was still coached by Jim Chudy at the time at Salto. And basically he was a genius at making her stand out. Like he used the little things to make her separate her from the herd. And her floor routine had all these moments where, I mean, her floor routine is one of my favorites, despite her wrists, which helps you understand. Yes, which helps you understand why. There was just all these things that she did. Like she would do like, you know, a butt bounce and a forward roll and a backward roll and just like little moments that you didn't need, but they were creative and unique and the kind of stuff that the little kids and me would go home and try at the gym, you know, or in the hallways, because you're like, how did you do that again? Like those little things. And it wasn't just one at the end. It was throughout the routine, sprinkled in, and moments where she like stop and look at the crowd, stop and make eye contact. It was very NCAA in that way. So she really, I feel like, wasn't just that she was a badass and hit when she had to and when she was called upon, but her gymnastics effort was performance level worthy. Like her actual like fun things in her routines were Khorkina level performance. Like Khorkina just like give you a look and like it doesn't matter what she's doing because you're like, what's happening over here? Oh my God, I have to watch. But Chelsea, like her gymnastics was like that. Her bars, my God, get out of here with the bars too. So that is why. Shall we go to vault?
Yes. So US started on vault. The United States of Yurchenko 1.5 was this year, which doesn't have quite the same ring as the United States of Amanar, but you know, they all did 1.5s. The best moment, they all hit their 1.5s, Carly and Chelsea and Tasha. The best moment of this vault rotation was, so Tasha hits a very good 1.5, nearly sticks it. Joy Schweikert's losing it and did not, can I just first of all say, we see her in the crowd and her seats are terrible. And I'm like, someone get Joy Schweikert some better seats here. What are we doing? She is Joy Schweikert. Like, you think that later years they would have a camera on the Raceman parents? Like, can you imagine camera on Joy Schweikert the entire time? Well, with her maybe mic'd up. It would have been fantastic.
God,
but
maybe
anyway,
we can go back and do that. Maybe we
should go back and find
that
for that. So there's a moment where Tasha goes over to Marta, and Marta tries to do her classic smack you on top of the head in congratulations, because why treat someone like an equal for doing a good job when you can treat them like livestock? You know, the Marta way.
Or a toddler.
Or a toddler. Tasha, it may be that she thought Marta was high-fiving her and she's going for a high five, but it really looks like, and this is captured on the footage and you can see it, she is trying to block Marta's hand, and then Marta just pushes through anyway, and it's like, I will not be deterred. I'm going to smack you on top of the head. It's the best part of this. That maybe, it's like me reading into things so much, just like that time where Steve Penny tried to kiss her on the cheek, and she's like, buh, and then she was like, no, that isn't really what happened, and the internet was like, we ignored that, because that definitely is what happened. This is what I've decided happened here. Marta tried to hit her on the head, and she would try to block it, because she was like, Marta, don't touch me.
Also, Marta still grabs the back of her neck after patting her on the head, and then she tries to block it with the high five. Marta grabs the back of her neck, which could be a hug, but we know
established that's Marta's power move, to pinch everyone on the back of the neck.
Gross.
It is. I mean, that's like, if anything else had happened, like if I had been a gymnast and like it had been good. And the first time I go to camp, Marta pitches me on the back of the neck. I would be like, I'm never coming back. Nope, that's not happening. I'm never coming back. Creepy. I mean, I don't even let Jessica touch the back of my neck.
No, and I've learned now not to touch or the shoulders, the general upper body.
That's area. That's why I cut my own hair, because I don't like the person behind me that I can't see touching.
And it's with her nails, with her claws.
It's fingernails on a chalkboard to me. I can't.
Also, how would you ever pat someone on the head? Like ever, even a child?
I mean, no. The only context I can think of is because I tend to be so much taller than everyone I'm around. Sometimes it's the only part that I can reach. Like, top of the head, look down there. But no, it's weird. I mean, it's definitely weird.
I think it's such a condescending, rude thing to do to someone. It's, you just don't do that to an athlete that is like paying your salary, basically, but with their efforts.
Yeah, it's definitely weird.
Okay, so now we move on to the hit vaults.
Well, those were the hit vaults. That's basically the end of the list of hit vaults.
Oh, that's right, because we're getting to the crashes now.
That was pretty much an accomplishment that the U.S. hit 3 year take of 1.5s, because, it's the kind of thing where I'm like, was the vault set wrong at this meet? I mean, I know we've been through that, but like, was it set wrong?
And this is why when we were talking about this at first, I was like, oh my God, we might need to talk about men's final, because like this is where like vault was cursed. There were so many injuries on vault, and these two, I don't know how they walked away. So if we could cue the Wang vault, please. Here it comes.
No, we can't.
Any second. Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, no, that's not the one.
Almost. Going great.
You guys were trying. This is the first time we're trying this, so we're going to get it. Don't worry. Wang Tintian crashes her double twisting Yurchenko, limps off. Here we go. Thank you. Oh, Ben sees. Oh,
oof. Not even close.
No, lands.
You did not have the amplitude. You did not have the twist.
No, barely lands. Feet first, then is like 1 inch nose hair off the ground, then smashes back forward into her face, and then limps off. And then they put that freezy spray on. Which
they fixed it. They fixed her knee. She just limps off, and they're like, and then done.
And obviously, if you go to other countries, they will swear by that freezy stuff, that their studies show that if you use that, it's just as good as using ice. And so we can argue whatever. Maybe that has all been solved now, but they have an on-air argument about it. Tim Daggett's like, that stuff doesn't work. Whatever.
That was not the most terrifying vault of this competition, though. We've got Patricia Moreno's vault. Competing for Spain. This was a year where Spain was like good. Like, these are the athletes that paved the way for like the Roxana Popa and the Cynthia and this current generation of Spanish excellence, because there were people like Elena Gomez, 2002 world floor champion. She did not have her greatest floor in this competition. We see it in the broadcast. Her floor in this team final, I think she got kind of overscored because some of those landings were rough. But Patricia Moreno is the vault where Spain sort of lost it, because they scored quite well on floor in the rotation before that.
So let's watch this terrifying vault where she actually hits her feet on the table. Patricia Moreno, terrifying vault. Here we go. Oh.
Head judge, I'm surprised they didn't tell him, hey, stop, you gotta go. To the vault. Patricia Moreno.
Oh, God.
This is not a good one.
Oh, my God, it's so scary. So she's basically doing, did she do a half? She's a round off half on, right?
It's a back lay, and she clips her foot on the table in post flight and then lands on her head.
Yep. And it's like bad. I mean, and she's holding her head after it. It was very scary. And there were so many vaults like that from the men, even more than from the women's side. Yeah. And honestly, she just did not look healthy. Like, her face looked gaunt. It didn't look good from the beginning. And she looked terrified after that, which you obviously would be if that happened. It gives me the heebie-jeebies just to watch.
But it's, yes, it does give you the heebie-jeebies to watch, but I do think it is an important part of the story of the meet. People always agree with us when they're like, the TV shouldn't re-show the scary thing, which we both disagree with because it is part of the story of the competition.
Yeah, it's important. And it's the truth. Gymnastics is dangerous. And if you don't appreciate that it's dangerous, it's even more dangerous.
Yes.
You have to respect
and you can go overboard with showing those things. Sometimes they're like, okay, we've seen enough replays, but I think it's worth seeing.
It shouldn't be done for entertainment. It should be done for truth telling.
Yeah.
That's my, and this is the truth of what happened.
So
okay.
Other things. Romania did have a pretty good time on vault because it was Romania, but I did love the moment in this broadcast where Tim is talking about how Romania doesn't have the power on vault, and meanwhile they're doing your Chenko double fulls, and like the US just did 1.5. But he says that as Monica Rosu is about to go, who does a huge Yurchenko double full, has way too much power for it, if anything, was her problem. And her, she would go on to compete the 2.5, and at that point was the best one we had ever seen. Monica Rosu's Yurchenko 2.5 was, until like Maroney, and maybe until Chung Fei, she was the best vaulter, the most powerful vaulter of the table era.
And honestly, and honestly, this is some of the most powerful Romanian gymnasts on this team of all time. Like I would say,
Honora's on this team,
right? And Oana Bon is on this team, which she has like before Shawn Johnson, the Shawn Johnson legs of beam. Before her, the Lee of beam, like just so much power on beam, especially. So I was just like, huh? Are you watching them vault? Like, did you have them confused? I mean, I remember watching, we'll get to Oana Bon later, but I remember watching in the practice gym, watching Oana Bon practice, and I was just like, this is unreal. It's like the beam has springs in it. Like I have never seen anyone get so much height. And that was in the practice gym on concrete, I mean, it makes a difference when the beam is sitting on concrete. Like it's a little difference, but still, I was just, oh my God. And when she was on podium, anyway.
So also an iconic moment that we have to talk about it. It's the 2003 World Team Final. We have to break it down. The Elfie Schlegel, Alexander Shevchenko moment. Should we watch it first? I think we should watch it first and then talk about it. Yes?
Okay, let's watch it first.
Let's watch it first.
Disgusting. So rude. Okay. Well, bringing that up next. This is like one of the moments when I talked to Shevchenko when I asked her to come and compete at the Aurora Games. One of the dinners, I sat down and talked to her about it and like, what did you think of that? And I can't believe she said that about you. And I remember this happening, and I watched you and I was there, and she was talking about how she was just like, why would she say that about me? Like it was my very first international meet ever. Like I had no experience. And she just totally oh, hold on.
I'll get the link.
Okay.
We're going, everything's going great. Don't worry about it. So she was saying it was her very first international experience. She'd never traveled before. She was just completely out of her element, and like how she like felt like she did really good for being not like she felt like she did good because obviously she was Russian, but she was just like, I didn't know what was going on. I was, and she was like, why would someone be so mean? She's like, I just can't believe that she talked about me that way. And I am totally, she just felt like she was overwhelmed. And like one of the things that I love about her story is like, this is an iconic moment. Like it's, a crazy moment in gymnastics. And Shevchenko goes on to be this incredible parkour star, to be absolutely amazing in her profession, travels all over the world, is still a professional athlete, speaks multiple languages, speaks great English. I'm just so glad she got out of gymnastics because she is an amazing person and didn't deserve to be treated this way. And I think this comment was really shocking for her. And I think it was a defining moment. And I'm so glad that she got out of gymnastics. And I'm so glad that Elfie's not a commentator anymore. And let's hear why.
I'll have to say that it was a tad bit disappointing when I saw this young lady mount the podium. I never expected the Russians to put an athlete with so little talent on their team.
As she sticks a layout full in.
Oh, there's more. There's more for us to watch there.
So now she's going to go for her second pass, which is a little overcooked, a little too leaning forward. And whoop, does basically a forward whip with her hands on the ground, and then almost lands in a bush, in a tree.
Which is the bush's fault mostly, because why is there vegetation here?
Exactly.
The bane of gymnastics photographers everywhere, the little plants, so that they can't even take pictures of anything because it's like, oh, it's a fake fern. That's what I wanted a picture of. Thank you, gymnastics. I
remember watching this there on the day, and I thought that she like flew into the actual scoreboard, and I was like worried she was going to be bloodied after. So then she tries a triple full and lands on her side, doesn't make it all the way around. I really didn't like this Leo either. It's white.
You're not a fan of the white.
I don't like a white Leo. It's just too see-through. It's too naked.
Yeah.
On anyone.
She has a James Bond floor routine here, which also, like, to add insult to injury, after she finishes her, like, disastrous routine, then Al's like, oh, and the James Bond was stupid.
He's like, that didn't help. And I was like, it doesn't help being a dick. Then she does a double pike, takes a little step back, and she's like, oh. She literally, her last pose.
I mean, the end of this routine really invented Tatiana Nabieva. Because, like, the 8 minutes she spends hating her life.
Now she's going to walk by, she walks by Protonova right there, and Protonova doesn't even look at her. Does it? Protonova
wasn't on this team, right?
No, she wasn't. She was coaching.
Oh, she was coaching.
You want to recognize her because she went through her post, like back in the day when they had terrible eating habits and everything. She had her post change, and then she went back to. So, but yeah, she was there coaching on the floor, and she did not look at her. She was just like, no, we hit or we die. There's no choice.
Here's the thing about this. The context here is that Russia had some really good gymnasts in this quad, but they were not deep at all. That was the big problem. This team has some amazing people. Khorkina is on this team. Zamo is on this team. Pavlova is on this team. Yezhova is on this team. But then, and Natalia Ziganshina was injured this year. She would have been on this team as well. And that's important to note because it's like Russia had to fill out this team with 2 people, one of them being Alexandra Shevchenko, with very little experience. And you understand, like, she was not going to be able to score at the level that the other, like Khorkina or Zamo is going to score. That wasn't going to happen for Shevchenko. But, and so that is, a sentiment worth saying. It's worth noting, like, this is an athlete. That's analysis, just to simply say that. But it's like he's saying someone has so little talent as a TV broadcaster is like, come on, Elfie, like better than that,
right? You would say, normally they would put up Zamolachikova. She is known for her floor. She does a weird robot thing. She's been in Olympic finals.
I have a question. Why didn't they put up Zamolachikova on floor?
Right, like this is your job as a commentator to explain why someone who's so new would be going in place of someone who's made an Olympic final. That is what we'd expect from a good commentator, not just insulting the athlete. Oh, and notice later on, if you watch this full broadcast, Elfie goes on and on how the Romanians, they're really new. They're new to the scene. I was like, the scene, like it's a bar. And also like they're at the club. And then, new to the scene, this is they're untested. Well, Shevchenko was also young and new and untested, but she's taller than the other gymnasts. So you're just going to crap on her. And instead of saying that, she was also untested and young. Oh, I see how it is. Benefit of the doubt too. It was just so rude. It's just so rude.
That's why it's become one of the most famous gymnastics commentary moments, because it was just so like, oh, wow, there are way better ways you could have put that sentiment.
The fact that
you also don't even have to preface it. Like, she might have done great. She stuck that first pass. So wait, and then if she has mistakes, which she did, then analyze maybe the cause of those mistakes.
Right. This is where the school, the Kathy Johnson, Bart Connor school of commentating, Ollie, Hogben, Blythe, Lawrence school of hogbetting.
School of hogs.
Hogbetting. School of
The
commentary.
Ollie Hogben School of Hogs.
School of hog. Commentating is so important because you talk about what's happening. You don't insult the athlete. You don't talk down about the athlete. Like, we're all only here because of the athlete. So you can talk about what's happening factually, but you don't put them down. And this is also where you're supposed to examine what's going on. You're not supposed to start by saying she sucks and then she sticks a pass perfectly. That's my favorite part of that. Also, Al Troutwig being like, wow, as if
even Al, like, that's how shocking this comment is from Elfie. Like, even Al was like, too far.
Al goes, wow. After she says it, that's it. Because it was so mean. And Al Troutwig, who doesn't work with NBC anymore, because probably, in my personal opinion,
nice.
Right, insulted the Olympic champion's whole entire family during a broadcast in Rio. There is, he is so far down the chain of what's acceptable for him to be surprised by something Elfie says. Is just how bad it was.
So, but I almost think like the most upsetting part of this commentary sequence comes after the routine, when they're saying more and about how like it's so sad, and they're talking back to the coaches, Jessica. They're talking back to the coaches. How dare they? God. The coaches are disgusted.
All right, so here's what we have to say about this whole like talking back to the coaches thing. So we have to get rid of this whole thing. I remember the first time I ever heard this in my life is when I moved to California, and I heard it from one of my new friends, and I was like, what's talking back? I didn't even know what that was. Honest to God, I had no idea what that was. And apparently it's if someone tells you to do something or tells you why you're bad or you've done something wrong, if you utter a word at all, that's bad. This is how we got into this whole problem in gymnastics, FYI.
/ the world, / America.
/ everything. Like,
why.
If you are going to have a productive relationship with the person you work with in your profession, which is what's happening in elite gymnastics, this is a profession. These are professionals working together, regardless of age. You need to be
or whether they're actually getting paid or not. There's still the sentiment is there.
Right. You need to be able to say exactly what's going on. You need to be able to say, actually, this just happened because my foot feels like it's going to fall off. So I can't do another one. Could I do XYZ instead? Or how about I do this? Or you set the board wrong. That's why I fell off, or whatever is happening. Like, this talking back thing is insane. Like, maybe all these gymnasts wouldn't have gotten hurt if they were allowed to, quote unquote, talk back. In other words, express themselves in order to have productive communication at work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying anybody did get hurt because they weren't allowed to. I'm just saying, like, gymnastics culture.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is, in terms of gymnastics culture specifically, it is the problem of coaches being mostly accustomed to working with really littles, where you have to kind of really focus everyone and have moments where no one's talking except me, because otherwise it's a hog pen. It's a pig pen. It's chaos out there. But then they're not, it's not you're coaching a senior elite. You're coaching someone who has a driver's license. You're coaching someone who has, responsibility and is basically an adult, if not legally. And, you have to transition the relationship. And so being mad that a 16-year-old is talking back, like, oh my God, that's not the least of your problems.
Like,
16-year-olds are monsters, but not for that reason.
If you can't communicate well with teenagers, you should not be a coach.
No.
Period. End of story. If you can't communicate well with kids, if you can't communicate well with teenagers, this is not the profession for you. Period. End of story.
And also, the idea that that's the reason that Russia was struggling in this competition. Like, I mean, if anyone's the queen of talking back, it's Svetlana Khorkina, and she nailed it. Like, look at all the later, all these generations of Russians. Like, talking back does not seem to be a problem.
And, like, we always hear this, and it's like, maybe that's why they've been so good for so long, because they don't let people walk all over them.
Yeah, you look at someone like Simone or someone like Alia Mustafina, two of the most successful athletes of this current generation. One of the things they have in common, they're not putting up with your shit.
Exactly.
So after Shevchenko fell, we do also get treated to the glory that is Svetlana Khorkina doing murder floor. And like, I mean, every floor routine of Svetlana Khorkina's is kind of murder floor. Like, there's always, I mean, she's Pain of a Nation incarnate. There's always some sort of murder anger. But this was like extra strength Pain of a Nation at this point. Like, there were so
extra
many.
Strength. That's what the bottle says before you take the pill. Extra strength,
for extra
Pain
Pain of a Nation relief.
For when the person before you falls 3 times into a plant.
Yeah, like there were. I mean, it wasn't just one dove of peace dying at the end of her routine as she fell to the ground. It was like every single second a dove of peace died, and it was phenomenally expressive.
Okay, so let's watch this part of Khorkina's floor, which is, to me, is part of the choreography that is saying something. And I want to know your interpretation of what this moment in her floor routine says.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's not saying doves of peace.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, right. It's coming up.
Was that the part where she peed? Are we talking about that part?
No, here it's coming up right here.
Okay.
She's like, you love me. If you don't, you know what's wrong with you. It's coming right here, right here. When she
threw her emotions into a ball and focused the energy to try to use it as some sort of a weapon.
Yes, exactly.
That is what happened there. Yeah.
Yes.
She felt so much that her entire body shot metaphorical syringes into her hand so she could throw them later.
Yep. To me, it's somewhere between an F you and a if you don't love me, I am killing you with my syringe fingers. Ugh. It was very much a fafangu kind of whatever that is in Russian.
I do love saying that.
I do. It's my favorite.
This is the best part of this routine where she does a full victory lap around the floor.
And then she waves to her fans. She does peace sign on her way out. And then let's wait because we're going to see Protonova now, which is obviously the most important part of this competition, is each moment that Protonova is shown coaching on the side. There's the peace sign too. She's like, yeah, she should hold up 9. Like, oh, it's going to be my 9th. There she is.
Oh, okay. I missed her.
My girl. Okay, we can stop this one now. Oh, I love a Khorkina moment. So good.
Fantastic.
Shall we move to bars in Romania?
Ooh, must we? So Romania'd on bars, and also China'd on bars. 2 very different things. The thing about this Romanian team is that, like, in theory, in concept, this was not an actually terrible bars team that Romania put out in 2003. But then, they got to the team final and everyone forgot how to cast handstand. The number of people, like, we had vault problems. We had the number of people who messed up cast handstands in this competition was insane, and most of them were Romanian. So this almost was okay. Like, Romania did the same thing at 2001 Worlds. They had a disaster on bars, but they still won gold because no one else was good enough. And the difference in this year was that the US was good enough to beat them, but they really, really, a tale as old as time. Romania didn't have the bars.
Tale as old as time. The other thing, a tale of old as time, is the tale of the trying to do a hecht to the high bar when the FIG makes you all have the same setting, but you're only 3 feet tall. So you try to hecht a high bar, and you can only catch it because you have dowels on your grips. Your fingers are nowhere near the bar, and then you just hang lifelessly and try to kip up, at which point you have no strength except if you totally bend your arms and arch up into a handstand, which is why there are so many missed handstands, because the bar is too far away for these tiny people to be doing hex to the high bar.
Yes.
So that
can't do hex, can't do shoots. Poor China, they didn't even have dowels to help them. They were just plummeting to the middle of the earth in the middle. And an Elfie moment that you will actually identify with when Fange falls on bars and Elfie just screams, "Not fair!" in the middle of it. So, that's like what Jessica would do.
It is what I would do. It's another example of, Elfie being like, oh, these Romanians, the Chinese, they're so untested, young, new. But Shevchenko, ugh. She's the worst. Now, one of the standout routines of this entire competition is Lin Li.
Mm-hmm. the bars routine that encapsulates Chinese bars in a lot of ways because it's so inventive and so beautiful. And then like she screws up something randomly and you're like,
why? The thing that I love, like, let's watch this routine because the thing I love about it is how she is like a power bar worker. And I don't think that there's a lot of Chinese gymnasts who are known for working bars like she does, which is she's almost like when Mohini Bhardwaj do bars or a Beth Tweddle or one of the Downey sisters. Like she is, it's like aggro, major, like power. I don't know how else to describe it except power bars. Like the speed of her turns and the speed of each of her skills is one of my favorite things about watching her. And I always wondered if this, I don't remember what her vault was like, but I always think sometimes there's a connection between like the people that do power bars and the people who do are amazing vaulters, like Mohini. And I always wonder if that's part of it.
I tell you, I saw this girl in training the first day. Somebody came up to me and said, Tim, you got to check her out. She is incredible.
oh, daggett.
She is so
This is also the era of the amazing barrettes. They would have like 700.
And the sleeveless Leos. Everyone has sleeveless Leo.
No handstand, but
it's okay in 2003.
Look at the speed. Right to handstand.
Her pirouettes are so fast. She flies into her pack. It's like she's out of control, like honestly.
Yeah, and that's what she did. She couldn't cast out of it. Like she did this amazing, nearly layout leader. And then does the pack, can't cast out.
Margolov misses every cast to handstand in this entire routine. And then she does this like baby little double layout. That's like a pretty arch, which normally I don't like those. And she's kind of laughing afterwards, but it's like she missed her connection. She was supposed to do cast, half turn, and then go away from the high bar and then back up. But she missed it, so she just jumped on, did a squat on, turned around, jumped to the high bar. Okay, we can stop that one. That's one of my favorite things. That she's like, squat on. I think it will. But putting a squat on was a deduction then.
I don't remember if it was then.
I feel like it was a jump off your feet instead of a hecting off your feet.
Well, yeah, she had to correct, and it fully encapsulated everything about Chinese bars because it's so perfect. And then it's like, what? The cast, really? This is what's happening?
It's like her speed. I mean, it's no wonder that she couldn't make that turn to low bar because like she flew so high on her pack. I mean, I was like, oh, she's flinging off the bar. I don't even know how she made her kip. It's just like one of the fastest. Her pirouettes are so fast. It's like everything, all the momentum builds. We're normally on bars to control your bars. You have to kill your swing at some point. That's why you see people cast and they pike their hips down and then swing down to kill their swing. But she is just like ballistic. I mean, it's, you know how I feel about ballistic power gymnastics.
I do know that.
My favorite thing ever. If it looks like at any time you could fling into the stands like a la American Anthem, I'm in.
Just murder your coach with a trippus.
And on him has to have full reconstructive surgery on his face because he went for that trippus. Please,
so we do need to talk about
American Anthem to fully understand if you haven't watched that. So are we getting to sexism?
I do want to talk about some sexism, Jessica. I think you'll be pleased. So there's a lot of talking about Bella. Bella is there for some reason. He's sitting next to Mary Lou, and we're showing him constantly and talking about him constantly. Now, a reminder, Bella's not doing anything at this point. It's 2003. Marta is the national team coordinator. And Al makes an aside, like, really, it's his wife, Marta, that's looking over the program. But you know Bella has a say. This was very typical. I would say through, like, 2008. From when Marta took over 2008, it is Marta's in charge, and the U.S. is getting a lot better than it was when Bella was coordinating in 2000. And then there's always the caveat of, but you know Bella's really behind the scenes pulling the strings. And it's one of the reasons why we would typically defend Marta over the years, because I do feel like she did not get the credit for the job she was doing. And now, credit, we know that Marta is also, a monster. But she did win a lot as national team coordinator, and that was always attributed to Bella by default. And it probably made me more sympathetic to Marta than I should have been. Because I wanted to be like, no, give Marta the credit. But then it's like, oh, but don't, because she's also bad.
So before we talk about the U.S. on bars, I want to talk about the day that I went to watch the U.S. workout. Before,
Please do.
Yeah, I think it was before the team final. I'm not sure now, actually. I think it was because everyone was still working out. So
because everyone was still alive.
Right. No one was just laying there like I'm done. So the most shocking thing to me about it was how little warm up they did. I felt like they barely warmed up and they were already flipping. And flipping meaning doing their basics. Like they did one of their basics was just from a stand front handspring front tuck. And I was just like, they haven't even stretched yet. They haven't they're not even breaking a sweat. It just felt too fast to me. So anyway, that was just my observation, and I don't know. That's just what I remember. The other thing I remember distinctly is that Tasha Schweikert was there with her coach Cassie, and basically they just went to the side of the gym and they did drills for vault, and they did round off, practicing turning over your round off for your vault position. Round off onto a higher surface, so onto a panel mat over and over and over. That was basically it. And it might have been something for floor too, but I don't remember them doing anything else. The other thing I remember, which has stayed with me forever and ever and ever, is watching Carly Patterson on bars. So the gym that I was at, they had a second story observation deck. So that's regular height, second story, right? Whatever that is, 15 feet up or whatever. And so I'm sitting up there watching, eating my Thai food lunch, so on my lunch break, and wafting Thai food smells into the gym. I'm sure everybody loved that. So Carly goes to bars, and you have Jenny's like, okay, get up there. She goes and stands on the high bar. So already just watching her, my palms are sweating right now, just thinking about this, how afraid of heights I am, you guys. So already standing on the high bar, she was almost I was sitting on the second level, right? So I'm sitting in a chair. She was already knee level to me, right? She then jumps as high as she can off the high bar and into a perfect stick on the mat below. The reason that stuck with me, not just because my palms are sweating, thinking about how high she was, but it was because she ended up, before she started to descend, being at the level that I was sitting on the second floor in a chair before she landed. So when we talk about the impact and the punishment that athletes in gymnastics take because of the landings, and how those landings should be measured, and how they shouldn't be done over and over and over, and how much it takes out of your body, imagine going to your second floor window. Imagine getting in the window. Don't do this. Getting in the window, jump as high as you can out of the window, and then land on the ground. Right. Now do that 30 times a day. Yeah. I just they go that high because you see them do their dismounts, right? But seeing someone just stand there and jump straight up in the air and do it, and it was fine. She was didn't even move because she's just a muscle. But I was everything's broken now. That's it. And I'm even more terrified of bars. Oh my God, you guys. So anyway, those are one of the things. The other thing was Marta really didn't. Everybody just really worked with their own coach and was doing things. I don't remember seeing anybody do full routines. And to me, it seemed like some people were just make something up so we look like we're doing something here. You can just save yourself, right? But it was nobody was weird about me being there. No one bothered me. I just watched.
Well, it was still early.
No, so that's true. It was super quiet though. It was not like a laughy enjoy. Hey, good job. It was silent. It's a good thing I didn't toot or eat my Thai food too loud or have a burp, because it would have like ricocheted through that place.
Marta would have looked right at you and you would have melted.
Exactly.
Shivers down the spine. So we need to talk about the Hollie Vice number fiasco in the US bars rotation. So she's going up last, she's anchoring the rotation, following hits from Chelsea Memel and Tasha Schweiker. In the first two spots, Tasha had a moment where she was really close on her Hindorf, and then she goes into her pack, and I think her hands had to turn inside out so that she could get her dowels over that bar on the pack.
I seriously was like, that she didn't smash her face on her Hindorf, and like all of her teeth were like eaten and smashed out of her mouth is like amazing. It's like a testament to what a ninja athlete she is. I was like, oh, but she was perfect because she's a badass.
So anyway, let's start by watching the Hollie Vice number fiasco.
Up and standing. Really, it's his wife.
So she's up there.
Oh, there's it's his wife Marta. Yeah.
And so you can see that she doesn't have a number on.
Yeah, and now she is saying, oh, also, by the way, I don't have a number on.
What number? I don't have a number.
Who's a number? What's a number?
This is also one of the things is like, how do you make it to a world championships and no one has noticed up to this point that you don't have your number on your back? Not your teammates, not your coaches, not the head coach, not the trainer, not any of the 500 people that are there.
Cassie Rice is just like, I did not sign up for this.
Now they're just yelling at people like,
they're just, who has the number? Did you check this? Did you look at that? Did you check my bag? This is why I love the insanity of gymnastics. The most dramatic thing is like trying to find a piece of paper and no one can find it.
Yeah, they're looking in her bag now. A bunch of people are down there.
Let's just look in her bag.
And then I don't understand why you can't just hold up the number and just be like, she's going to backspin.
Well, you can before people do routines with backspins.
Yeah, so just say, oh, there's a part where she slides over the bar.
So now they draw 419 on a piece of paper and are trying to pin it on, which is definitely not acceptable.
Can I ask the question, what is with the safety pins?
Al, that is not the biggest question right here. Just shut up, Al.
Al, you're so dumb. How many gymnastics events have you watched and you don't know about safety pins? God, how did he get this job?
Al thinks Velcro is like the height of technology. He's like, this Velcro, it's like a hologram.
Well, and she's been nervous on this.
So she legit mounts the bar 2 seconds after they get that thing on. And then, boop,
and
misses
then,
her Jaeger.
surprise, surprise, she falls on her Jaeger, which you can almost not believe after that insanity before she has her routine. But I do have a theory. I have some theories. So I believe that the lack of one-touch warm-up is the full culprit here. I mean, well, there are other culprits, but the lack of one-touch warm-up is the culprit because normally you would have discovered this problem in the one-touch and had time to look, and she would have, because we see Hollie at various times out on the floor with the team before this, and she has her warm-up jacket on the entire time. So that's why no one noticed that she didn't have her number, and probably she didn't notice either, because she had her warm-up on over it the entire time, and didn't have cause to take that off until she was going to do her bars routine, because there was no warm-up time or anything. So that's part of it. Like, if there had been a one-touch warm-up, I don't think this would have happened. Also, why did this happen, though? There's no excuse for this.
No.
Come on.
No.
Like, in the US program, these things happen too often for how many people you have around, how much staff, and how much oversight. This is the same situation as, like, Alicia Sacramone's floor routine in 2006 when the composition was wrong. And
or Maroney's routine music going over when she could have been the floor world champion in 2014, 2013. Yeah.
Like, these things are, especially those things, it's like, what do you have national team camps for if you're not even doing this? Like, what is the point of all of these national team camps if you're not finding these problems? This is different than that. This is just like, you're like, I mean, I know we're not supposed to blame the athletes for these things, but like, Hollie, where is your number?
I know. I mean, that's the thing. What I think that one of the most annoying things about Marta, from the just little that I have like overheard her in competition scenarios is like, girls, do you have your dance? Do you have this? Do you have a chalk? Do you have like constantly telling
Very
everybody?
Good impression. I like it.
Thank you. Constantly telling everybody like, get your chalk, your grips on now because you're not gonna have time by the time we go to bars. Like, do like all this reminder stuff that's like, duh, like they've been competing since they were like 7 or 5. Like they don't need you to tell them this. But then I'm like, well, when this stuff happens, you do need to be told this over and over and over. And that's
but you do need to be told it if a coach has always told it to you or always taken care of it. Then you do need to be told it because you've never done it any differently.
And that's the thing, like, I don't ever remember. This is also the problem of like soldiers instead of leaders in the gymnastics culture. It's like if you're told never to talk back, if you're told never to take responsibility for yourself and like speak up, then are you also just, where is the teaching someone to take responsibility for themselves? And that goes all the way down to you be responsible for your music. You be responsible for your grips. You be responsible for your number. But then also when it's, your job on the line, you want to do a little double checking. But there's so many people to double check. But then the other thing that we've heard like the coaches praise Marta about is that she would make them run these scenarios over and over and over so that when they got to the competition, everybody knew like the coaches switching places. And because you can only have 2 coaches on the floor and where you can only enter and leave from certain places in the arena. So you'd have to practice running to those spots. And like so many coaches have said how well prepared they felt because of how she did those things. So, I don't know.
Prepare for every eventuality. I mean, that's part of it too. Making sure everyone's prepared for crazy things like not having your number because you're Marta and you've been there for 800,000 years and everything has gone wrong. So,
right, like, and that's one of
that thing.
You'd think, like, in 1996, like someone should have been doing the scores for every single event after every single event and knowing,
just looking at the scoreboard.
Right, like someone should be in charge of that. Someone should always have a pen and some extra safety pins. Like someone should always have an extra whatever tampon. I mean, the trainers always have extra tampons and stuff. But you have to be ready for that stuff because anything can happen. I mean, Shawn Johnson said she just got her period. Speaking of Shawn Johnson, because we talked about that in the beginning, Shawn Johnson said she got her period for the first time on Dancing with the Stars. Anything can happen on stage in the middle of things when people are watching. So important.
The most terrifying part is after this, Hollie gets escorted to the back gym by Marta and Ro Kreutzer. And speaking of, needing some assistance, I'm like, oh God, is this a murder?
Oh God. Seriously.
It's a hilarious, like Marta right to the neck pinch. Ro Kreutzer's like beckoning with her bejeweled nails, and it's just like like nothing in the history of horror films has ever been scarier than that moment.
Ro Kreutzer, if you guys haven't listened to us talk to her about it, no one really knows. No, we don't know.
If you haven't listened to our behind the scenes with Dennis.
Yeah, listen to that because we don't really know who she is. Why she's a coach, I guess. Nobody knows like what her job is. Who she's maybe she's a judge. She's always around. She always like different wigs on, giant glasses.
She's a style icon, if nothing else.
I imagine she's one of those coaches who used to smoke on the end of the beam while you did your beam routine on wood with rosin on your feet like a ballerina. But I digress.
The thing with this number debacle is, so currently, the issue is, should Hollie have been allowed to go? Currently, if this were to happen, she would have gotten an automatic 0 because she took more than a minute to start. There's also currently a penalty of 3/10 for competing without the bib number supplied by the event. So even if you Sharpie the number on a piece of paper, like that's not good enough. You have to have the one that the event gives you. Jasmine has asked the question specifically in her commission, were they, meaning the US, given preferential treatment in the extra time they were allowed? My answer to that is, yeah, probably. And I do believe that every effort should be made to ensure that the gymnastics performance is what determines the results and not BS like this, if at all possible. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you have to follow the rules. But for issues like this, I do think there should be a benefit of the doubt because no one wants oh, you waited too long to start your routine, so you got a 0, and otherwise your team would have won the gold medal. No one wants that to be the decider.
Oh, you were staying on the podium in order to not get in the way of the judges to move your teammates board. So now you or your entire team didn't win their first ever team medal. The gymnastics should decide. So yes, this is absolutely unfair. And yes, she was totally given preferential treatment, but also like, what kind of a dick do you have to be to do that? Oh, I know. Her name was Eileen Berger.
Oh, I thought you were going to say her name was Nellie Kim, because one of the biggest problems here is that the exact same benefit of the doubt was not extended to the Chinese team in this very same competition, with their warming up on the podium neutral deduction taken by the beam judges, head beam judge Nellie Kim, that changed the podium results. China would have had the bronze medal. The 2/10 they got as a neutral deduction for warming up on the podium bumped them down to 4th and put Australia in 3rd. So I believe in giving the benefit of the doubt and letting the gymnastics aside, but they didn't in all cases here. It was inconsistent from event to event.
White person doesn't get a deduction, gets benefit of the doubt. People of color do not.
Another example. So let's talk about the China warming up on the podium thing. So
should we watch this first?
Yeah, let's watch Li Ya's routine. At the end of this routine, there is a replay of her warming up on the podium, so we can talk about that.
And also, we should always watch Li Ya's.
And we should always watch Li Ya's routine because she is
maybe that's my
true star.
Well,
Press handstand, perfect split,
acrobatic elements.
Oh,
actually
up on toe scale and releve, another releve, switch. Tuck full.
It's a tuck jump on beam, Jessica. It's a turning tuck jump.
I know, and it was beautiful, and it was a full turn.
Very difficult.
Real sheep jump.
They take huge risks, throwing your head back.
Head closure.
In a jump like that.
Extended hip angle.
Check this out.
Back flexibility for years.
Oh, no, do front aerial back.
They have such a great flow in their routine.
She's so extended. Oh my god, I want to cry. Oh, and she did a little back attitude. Another full twisting split jump.
Full twisting split jump. Toes pointed the entire time, hitting the actual 180 position.
How specific?
Pike front almost fell off.
She almost fell on the pike front. Jessica doesn't care because it was so cool.
Things have to be done to get credit, and certainly the Chinese.
I love all of her back attitude work.
Do things like
everything
that so definite. There's really no question that they're going to get all of the bonus that they're looking for.
Full twisting back dive that is not a flip.
Yeah.
And now you're not allowed to do it.
I find that so much more aesthetically pleasing than a roll flip.
Me too. It's so pretty. And basically they mastered it. I feel like China mastered it, so they took it out of the code.
They took it out of the code?
Yeah.
So this is the replay that we're watching right now of her doing a switch split, practicing her switch split to tuck jump full on the podium.
Yeah, and she's really doing this. And at this point right here, I'm pretty sure, but I believe they've already got the go sign up.
And she doesn't know.
What's the point here, Tim? Did you see the judges make a motion or put a flag up or do anything?
They
So basically, you're not allowed to do any gymnastics or any skills on the podium, which is so stupid. Why can't you stay warm on the freaking podium? I don't understand this rule at all. It's so dumb. You should do it on the ground, on the concrete. Like, I don't.
Especially if you don't have a one touch.
Right. What is the point of that? Like, is it aesthetically unpleasing that someone's doing gymnastics? Are people gonna get confused that you're doing gymnastics on the floor? Is that part of the routine? Is it like an exhibition and a guy in a tuxedo is gonna come out and lead you up to the beam, and they're gonna play some slow music, and then he's gonna rip his shirt off and do high bar and jeans?
Where are we going here? What are we talking about?
That's how dumb the rule is.
Oh, okay.
Like, would people confuse the gymnastics? Like, what do you think the point of this rule is? What is the etymology of this?
I don't know. Does it have something to do with like when meets weren't on, or when meets aren't on podium, and it being like in the way? Like, I'm just trying to come up with ideas for why. But yeah, it doesn't make that much sense to me.
Yeah, I really need someone who knows.
It makes as little sense to me as like them saying, like, oh, you can't do anything that might resemble a skill in your walking out to do your floor routine. Like, what, are you going to get confused if they do a full turn? Are you going to be like, oh, do the mark for it and think that's part of the routine? No, it's obvious.
Right. And that's the whole point, is you have to be still before the music starts. And then that's the start of your routine. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I would like to, if somebody knows, email us, gymcastic@gmail.com. And remembers why this was done. I'm sure there was some like ridiculous moment where someone did something like got hurt on the podium doing like a whatever. And so they decided against it, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of wondering, is it like thinking about like, oh, there are so many people in the way and someone might run into someone else and do a thing. It's like,
Yeah.
All right. So China got Leah. Sorry.
Yeah. So to summarize, the people of color were punished. White people were not. Got it.
Leah and Jungnan both warmed up on podium, a 10th for each. 2/10 neutral deduction off the team rotation score, bumped China down to third, and bumped China down to fourth, Australia in third, who we got to see a grand total of 2 routines from Alana Slater from Australia in this broadcast. But her bars was phenomenal, and she got underscored for it, and she's Alana Slater. We spent more time talking about looking at like the Peggy-lytic scrunchies that they all had to wear than we did seeing Australian routines. They were bedazzled.
And how about when, the only thing, he who should not be named commentator, I forgot, I've literally, like, his name is gone
That's fine.
in my head now. He was talking about how, Cuban transplant Anya Hatch, not U.S. citizen Anya Hatch, or transplant Peggy Lydic, an American who's da-da-da-da. It's just like, I mean, say who she coached. Like, this whole, like, I just can't stand it.
Well, he's also like shocked by the fact that a Russian would be coaching with the United States team. It's like, where you been, buddy?
And also, like, okay, Mr. like rah Team America, do you not understand capitalism? Like, you bring in, like, if you have the system where people can succeed and make money, then that's how you get the best coaches here. And then that's why they want to come here. That's why they're leaving here now. Going to lots of other countries. Anywho.
The other thing I want to talk about Australia is we learn at a certain point that Peggy Lydic had a quote-unquote distraction tape that she played for the athletes to practice distractions, and I want this tape so badly. Was it just people being like yelling like, the Miller isn't a skill, scrunchies are dumb, you'll never recreate the success of 1996?
I think that, like, realistically, what would be on this is like crowd noise, then total silence, then like someone's baby crying really loud, and then total silence again, and then someone yelling like, "I love you, Tasha," like really happened in real life. And then
I agree that it has to be out of the blue. Like, you can't know when the distraction is coming. Just like constant noise is like you're in the gym every day. That's just like white noise. That's nothing. That's not distracting.
And then it would also have the Swiss, I believe, that do the cowbells, and they have like a whole thing. You have to be prepared for that because they're so loud. And then they'd probably be used to the Aussie thing. They're not as distracting, in my opinion, as Swiss or with cowbell. What else would it have to have in it? It would have to have someone yelling suddenly for like refreshments. I remember also another story. So I got to go to every single session of this. So I watched every single day of them practicing. And so nobody was there really. I mean, this team final was the first day that it was packed and people were going nuts. It was crazy. I was like, these people are here for gymnastics. What's going on? So I was sitting in the very front row enjoying some nachos like you do. And I remember
Can we see you in the broadcast? I didn't notice you rewatching it.
On this one during team finals, I was on the second tier. I think it was there was only 2 times I was on the second tier, and this was one of them. So, but I was right in front of bars. So I saw that, like, looking straight down the whole drama, and I was like, oh my God. So anyway, I'm sitting in the front row eating nachos while the French team is warming up on floor. And like one of them came by and like looked at me and I like offered her a chip, like you do, offer a nacho to a gymnast,
Yeah.
And she was just like, looked at me and was like, ugh. Like she just gave me a look like that's so disgusting. That's the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life.
French, Jessica. She doesn't need your American garbage.
No. And nachos are, it's the most disgusting kind of cheese there is. Besides, American cheese is grosser.
Mm-hmm.
Established fact. That's the truth.
Is the like cheese they put with nachos at like, at arenas and things, isn't that also like American cheese, or is it like Velveeta or something?
I don't know. I don't
know the difference between the garbage cheeses. We're both cheese snobs, and I appreciate that about us.
Yeah, I would never buy that kind of cheese, and like when we make nachos at home, it's like like good actual cheese. Yeah, and like shred it. I mean, Coop obviously shreds it himself. He has like a processor that he shreds cheese in himself because he's ridiculous. So we don't have that kind of trash in the house. But if I go to an arena and I'm there for 12 hours a day,
you got to eat those nachos.
That's right. So anyway, that was one of my sidelines. The other thing is like when on the practice days, speaking of China and Beam, when they were all doing that full twisting back dive skill that's not a flip, so it's a dance element actually, they sort of go around the side of the beam. Everyone was like, as if I knew what was going on because I was sitting there. People were like, what is that? Like, I remember somebody was taking around like Nadia and Bart or someone, like they needed an escort. I don't know. And they turned around and was like,
they're celebrities, Jessica. You got to keep the masses safe away from them.
And they turned around and asked me like, what is that skill? And I was like, are you talking to me? I was like, well, it appears to be a full twisting back dive in the horizontal plane. I've never seen it before.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so it was like many people were talking about this. It's so beautiful. I mean, it's like, it's one of those great things that we should have in the code because it's beautiful and different and creative and lovely. But no, let's just do boring stuff that Nellie Kim put in and named after herself.
So in rotation 3, the U.S. moves to beam. Another strong hit rotation for the U.S., which is why they won, because they hit almost all of their routines. Hollie Weiss she has her number now. We found it, and it's all really crumpled up, so I'm like assuming Marta got a hold of it and took out her anger on Hollie's number, because it's like that number has seen some things. Like something has happened in between. But she has it now. She has to wait to go on beam because like the scoring computers had a problem, which apparently has never happened to anyone before. It has to be a huge shocking thing. And Bella is outraged, and I'm like, oh my god, like Bella, you've seen people have to wait to go on beam before. This happens at every meet, every gymnast, all the time.
You've threw a 20-minute fit over this, in fact, at the Moscow Olympics, and held up an entire event, as a matter of fact, if you don't remember, Bella. Someone needs to commission that, by the way, too. We haven't done the 1980 Olympics, and we really need to talk about. We've talked about that incident before. But we needed to cover that whole meet because it's like one of the best Olympics that ever happened.
Yes. There are many Olympics that we've done some key Olympics that people remember, but there are like so many old-timey Olympics.
And Moscow, my God, the skills they were throwing. I mean, and Olomouc is even better because then it was like every skill that
the countries were invited.
No one else was there, which is the good
ones. So anyway, also in the beam rotation, we have to talk about. I'm not going to blame Tim for this. I think he was probably just repeating what he was told, but he repeats a total lie of a story that Marta apparently told the team about how they won. Romanian team, headed by the Karolis, won the team title in 1979 in Fort Worth without Nadia, which is not correct. I think they were trying to draw a parallel between her and Coupettes at this event, because Nadia also competed the all-around in compulsories. And Coupettes competed the all-around here in qualification, and they got injured. Nadia got injured. But very critically, the whole crux of this story is that Nadia came back and competed a beam routine in optionals and got a 995, and that put Romania over the top. Without Nadia's beam score, the Soviet Union would have won team gold at that event, but Nadia got the triumphant, I've been in the hospital under questionable circumstances that I will say we don't know the full story on.
Don't know the full story. Nadia in her book says that she had the signs of, what is it when you cut yourself with metal? tetanus from her grip, and that she has surgery and she has the scar.
But we don't, Romanian nonsense and just like secrecy. And she came back and got a 995 on beam, and that was the big deal. So that story was not quite correct. Just gonna put that out there.
Also, I want to put a plug in for ESPN has a podcast series coming out on ESPN radio or ESPN podcast channel. I don't know how you find this, but it's going to be called Heavy Metals, as in metals around your neck, like gold metals.
I get it.
It's all about the Carollis, and it's going to go deep, deep, deep into how they made up these stories about themselves, and they
cannot wait.
Go deep into the archives to look at whether or not the things they said about themselves are true, and the mythology.
Is the spoiler that they are not true?
Yeah, basically, like, where's this book?
I cannot hear you anymore. You're disappearing here.
Sorry. Basically, I am holding up Bella's book. Basically, if there's any facts in this, or if this book, Feel No Fear, it was just completely a fabrication. So, yeah, look forward to that. I think it's coming out soon. We'll put up links on our social media when it comes out, because I'm so excited about that. So excited about it. Okay.
So Hollie Weiss does recover. We mentioned the number thing. She does recover from bars and does a very strong beam routine. I mean, it's Hollie Weiss on beam. That was always, bars and beam were her things, but beam was my favorite event. To watch her, we had Chelsea Memel hit another fantastic routine. Carly downgraded, which was a big thing because she downgraded to the double tuck beam dismount. And then, but I have to say, even though it did not get the highest score on beam in this team final, I have a problem with that. My favorite beam routine from this team final belongs to Owana Bon. And I think we need to watch it now.
Let's watch it and just have all of our feelings. Oh my God, I love her so much. Wait to see how high she goes, you guys.
Very nice exercise.
It is the true tragedy of the 2004 Olympics that she did not compete in the all-around final. Because we all deserved that as humans.
We need her versus Carly. Okay, here it comes. Just watch the height.
The beam, really getting some air time. Back layout with a full. Super hard. She missed it day one. Wow.
So high.
It's so
does
good.
Not pike down. Her body is extended. Her hips are extended.
Very, very little bit of pike. Enough so that I don't care because she's so hot.
I refuse to see it. Also, Owana Bon in person is like Simone's size. Like barely. She's a tiny human. Also, her Cheng.
She's very noticeable in a crowd. She always has that smile.
It's the Chen flick.
Yeah, her back. So back tuck
holds with a pike.
Holds her tuck position and then shoots her legs out into a straddle and swings down. It's so pretty.
Right, that one's the tucked. Sorry, yes, the Chen is the tucked.
I mean, there's very few people who do it, and you really have to hold and show that tuck position before you extend and straddle to the swing down, and she does it so nicely.
Another skill that Nellie Kim was like, nope, for no reason.
I know, I love that skill. I mean, this is the
you
thing
can
that
still
makes
do
people
it.
go,
It's just all like combined into with the Rueda, which is the piked version.
Yeah, which is stupid. Yeah, and I refuse to acknowledge it.
Oh, Owana Bon, you are.
Yeah, like the beam comes up to her chest, like it's right below her sternum. Like, where's her sternum? Okay, it's right below whatever this is, where you cut a hole in case you can't breathe. That thing.
Your trachea. Your tracheotomy hole.
Yes. That's how small she is.
On a tangent. This is a total tangent that has nothing to do with anything, but that's what we do, right? So when I was little, and this is not just me, other people who were my same age, there was an anti-smoking commercial with a woman named Debbie who had a tracheotomy, and she would put the cigarette in the hole and be like, I had my first cigarette when I was 13. I will never forget it, and that is why me, and not just me, call that hole a Debbie hole. Because of Debbie from those smoking commercials who put the cigarette in the hole, in the tracheotomy hole. So that's just something that has nothing to do with anything that I wanted to communicate.
I thought you were going to say, and that's why I've never smoked. But no.
That wasn't the point of the story. I mean, those commercials were terrifying, but that is not the point of the story.
Those have been really effective. I'm really shocked that anybody smokes anymore. But if you go to an international gymnastics meet, you'll find that a lot of people
find out
smoke.
which of your favorite mag athletes smoke, because it's a lot of them.
It's a lot of them. Okay, so oh my god, I could just watch her beam all day. Like, there's some I wish. Okay, sometime we're gonna have to have a fake meet where it's my dream where we make teams of from different countries and pit them against each other and we show their routines. And we watch the routines commentate.
Didn't we do like a Gymcastic Olympics or something?
We did, but we didn't do it when you could actually show the routines. Because if you're a Club Gym Nerd member and you can watch us recording, you'll actually be able to see the routines that we're talking about. So that is the difference that we need to make happen because then I can do a lot of gushing, which is very important. Okay, rotation 4.
And so by the time we get to
Wait, hold on, Spencer. We lost you for a sec. No.
Yeah. I can see you and hear you now. Can you?
Okay. Now.
Are we okay now?
Try now. Yes.
Okay. We're good now? Okay.
We're good.
Special club, the glory of being a member. We get to the US on floor. Good Lord. Okay.
Wait, I lost you again. Okay, now, can you hear me? Let me do things and say, can you see me and hear me and I'm not messing up?
Yes.
Okay, let's start over again. All right.
Yes. Let's try again.
Okay.
What was I saying? The US is on floor. It's rotation 4. The US is moving to floor. They already have quite a lead at this point because they've only messed up once. And all of the US gymnasts hit their routines, which certainly assured that they had the gold medal. It was 2003 US choreography.
Chelsea Memel saved the day.
Karen Humphrey doing template routine number 2 was the strongest one. And also Carly was forced to dance. And poor Kim just spent her entire routine counting tumbling passes, and I'm like, I don't even blame you.
Yeah, I mean,
because
Carly Patterson,
it is what it is.
Carly Patterson on beam is a religious experience simply for her Oana bondness, like her incredible amplitude on everything, and her Patterson dismount and her Arabian, which was like so high. And I remember I was crossing the street to one of the meets and I was standing right next to her. Oh shit, we lost Spencer. Let's wait for him to come back. Hi. Are you back? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. So let's see if this... I got kicked out, so let's see if this...
All right.
Works now.
So I was crossing the street and Carly Patterson was standing right next to me at this meet, and she had a tank top and shorts on. And just standing next to her, I was just like, how does she find clothes that fit? Like, her muscles were so gigantic. Like, she was she's just so freaking strong and so muscular. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's gymnastics muscular, and then there's like Carly Patterson muscular. And I was just like, oh, no wonder it's just different when you see people in normal human clothes as opposed to a leotard, where you're like, oh, they look like that. And then when you see them in street clothes and you're like,
many gymnasts have talked about how impossible it is to find clothes that fit them, because clothing manufacturers assume if you're that short that you don't have any muscles too, and they're like, that is not correct. That's not how it works. Please fix yourself.
Fix yourself.
Your clothing, please fix yourself. After the US went on floor, Romania goes on floor, and because they're Romanians, NBC is like, we don't care about you, we're only going to show you if you fall, because then it's significant for the United States. But we are so very glad that they did show Andrea Monteano falling on floor. And at this point, the competition was already decided. Like, even if she had hit, the U.S. was going to win. But the U.S. didn't know that, as is typical. And we are even told that by the Troutwig, who says, Team USA is not a big one for figuring the numbers. Which is, he's not wrong. Team USA is not a big one for figuring the numbers, and that is a problem. So I think we need to watch the Carly Patterson sequence with the iconic reaction to Andrea Monteano falling on floor, and also some questions about numbers.
Two more people, we don't know.
Mm. Fantastic. That's too bad.
The best.
I had to include the part before that, too, because it cracks me up so much, of them asking. I don't know if you could hear it exactly, but of them asking Yevgeny, like, did we win? And he's like, I don't know. It's like, oh my God, yes, you've won by so many points.
And they're kind of, what you got? Like a 9?
I got a 9.5. I got a 9.3.
Oh, that's
too bad.
That's our girl. That's our girl. Oh, okay. Then.
So, anyway, Romania wins silver behind the United States. Australia gets the bronze because of Pegula's distraction tape and the deduction for China. China had 3 or 4 falls. Russia had continued disasters. We gave up on them, apparently, after Shevchenko, but they also had lots of problems on bars and lots of problems on beam that did not have anything to do with Shevchenko. And so then Al tells everyone that this victory is the version of the Karoli way, and the end, great. Everything's great. No problems here.
Everything's fine. Cool. Everything goes on to be a perfect future. I think that, like, overall, one of my favorite things about these worlds was watching beam and bars get to where they're supposed to be as events, like the evolution of those two events, like being happy with where the code was. And this, I think this is when I finally started to like bars again. And I think that one of the things that stands out the most to me of this competition was watching Yetsova on beam. Who was absolutely one of my favorites of all time. But we'll have to get into Yetsova later because she's her whole own episode. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else crazy that happened behind the scenes. I mean, a human person did attempt to pat me on the head during this, a la Marta Karoli, and I've never forgiven her. Don't owe me money and don't try to pat me on my head. What else happened? There were many, many, many parties that happened. One of my friends went to with the Russian men and the Russian women and hung out with them. No one spoke any English. She did not hook up with anyone, which was very disappointing. I was like, when else are you going to get to hook up with this hottie who clearly totally wants to hook up with you? I was like, what a wasted opportunity. That's how I feel about it. They were all adults. It was all consenting age, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing weird about it. What else? I wish they would do more of the in-house commentary radio. That was one of my favorite things, except that you had to buy this like throwaway little radio thing. I was like, why don't we just do it on an app? Like, it's better for everyone, better for the environment, better for me.
In 2003, you wanted to do it on an app?
Did we have that then? Probably not. I probably had a flip phone then. But now we could. Like, if they bring it back, I would like to have them. Because in-house commentary, it was so good. And then you don't have to have it in the arena.
Yeah.
It can just be if you want to. Yeah, walking across the street with Carly Patterson. Shannon Millering. And I think those are most of my highlights. Oh yeah, the French and the nachos. Another time I will never forget. Yeah, the absolute disgust. And Khorkina. when they were walking through those from the outdoor to the indoor, and her just being disgusted with these kids and being so dramatic. Like, I can't stand to be acknowledged by all of these people. So I'm going to loudly talk about how, like, oh, don't bother me. Don't bother me. Like, oh my God, she's just a trip, you guys. Just,
Thank you for remembering all of these moments of disgust. I assume that just for me, that you've chosen all these disgust highlights.
Yes, absolutely for you. I want to thank our Club Gym Nerd members who help bring you. If you're a member, you know you can watch the video of this recording and see all of our mess ups too, because I don't have time to edit all that out. There are that many though this time. But also, I want to let you guys know, if you're a Club Gym Nerd member, that we have done an audit of our membership, and we found out that we had access to our content but weren't paying because because Spencer doesn't know about this. I know, we're very professional, Spencer. Because remember when we had that terrible guy in charge and we had to fire him?
Yeah.
So one of the things he did was mess things up. So all these people got access, but then their payment stopped going through. So you may see that your payment is now going through, and if it is going through, it would be because either it stopped at some point, or it stopped and hasn't been charged for a year, it hasn't been charged since last month, but we're not charging back pay for the last, like, we're not going to charge you for the last 6 months or a year that you weren't paying. We're just starting it again. But if you have any problems with it, or you need any help, you have any questions, if you notice, some people, when something didn't work, then they started another account. So we want to make sure we're not, double charging you. So we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. But if you see anything weird, or you have any questions, know that that's what's going on. And we thank you for your support. And please email customer service at gymcastic.com if you have any questions, concerns, if you need anything changed. We will fix it for you. We're on it now, as you can see. And we want to make sure you have access to everything that you need to. So please feel free to email us. Next week, we are on our 4th of July week of break. So we'll be gone next week. But rest assured, we will have one of our all-time favorite episodes rebroadcast next week, which will be the leotard episode.
Oh.
An all-time favorite.
All-time shallow moment of Spencer's career.
We're gonna have to do another leotard commission, because now we can show the leotards. Like, now we have the video capability.
We should invite someone on who likes leotards.
Yes.
This time. Someone who's like actually into it.
Yeah, and like knows the name, because I got a whole bunch of emails and text messages about not knowing the difference between velvet and crushed velvet.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
I know. So like, you guys. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much to our Club Gym Nerd member for commissioning this. We had a lot of fun doing this. This is really cool. It was really fun for us to be able to do the video so we could watch some of these routines with you at the same time. I'm so excited about that. So thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you for being a Club Gym Nerd member. Another way that you can support us is rating us on Apple Podcast or Stitcher. You can find me on the socials. It's O to the Burn. Spencer is the BB Situation. We are GymCastic on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to send an email if you want to win the chalk giveaway. And until 2 weeks from now, we'll be back. Spencer, until 2 weeks from now, please remember.
What am I remembering?
Whatever. Say you're in charge this time.
I'm in charge this time?
Take off on gay split on rights.
Oh no, we have to come up with something.
Take off on gay split on rights.
Okay, fine. Take off on gay, split on rights.
There we go. That's good. Okay, we'll come up with something for next. But until next time, send us your videos if you're doing that. Okay, have a great holiday, you guys. And thank you so much for your support. We'll see you in 2 weeks.